Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and with me is Adam from Games and Groceries.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Adam from Games and Groceries.
So Adam and his wife Liz do a podcast called Games and Groceries where they'll talk about a bunch of different gaming topics. So I thought he would be awesome to have on the episode as he has played God of War and enjoyed it as well, I think. So I guess with that, our plan for today, we're going to go through God of War, talk about God of War 2018, the new one. Or new-ish, I guess. So we're going to talk about that. And then at the end, I'm going to do like a mini interview with Adam and just hear more about Games and Groceries so you guys can learn about that. So, I guess with that, since you're probably here for God of War, we'll get into that. But definitely stick around for learning about Games and Groceries because they're an awesome podcast. So, I guess with that, we'll jump into God of War.
Yes.
All right. So, description for this game is... From Santa Monica Studio and creative director Cory Barlog comes the new beginning for one of gaming's most recognizable icons. Living as a man outside of the shadow of the gods, Kratos must adopt an unfamiliar land, unexpected threats, and a second chance at being a father. Together with his son Atreus, the pair will venture into the brutal Norse winds and fight to fulfill a deeply personal quest. So, that's I guess, the game up front. So, a little background on the game. It was developed by Santa Monica Studios, so of course they're known for the God of War series. Mm-hmm. They also collaborated on The Order 1886 and Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. Mm-hmm. Have you played previous God of War games?
I played the first one. I actually have 1 and 2, and then I have 3 on the PlayStation 4, but I've only played the first one when it came out.
Okay. This was my first God of War experience, so...
Yeah, it's vastly different from the first ones. I don't want to say vastly different. There's definitely elements to it, but it's definitely modernized.
Okay. Yeah, because my understanding was that the early ones are mostly just like hack and slash, and this one is a little different than that.
Yeah, hack and slash, puzzle solving. See, that's the thing. The early God of War is if you just say it's just hack and slash, it really undermines the development of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely a thinking man's hack and slash. I guess it could be the best way to put it. Yeah. With also, some themes to it that are not safe for children.
yeah, God of War, not safe for children. For sure.
Yeah, that should be the tagline. God of War, not for children.
It really should. Oh, and you guys recently watched Raising Kratos, right? The YouTube thing?
Yeah, that was a really good watch. Like we said on our podcast, we discussed it, and it's not really the making of God of War if you go into it and thinking that's going to be a making of, but it's more or less Cory Barlog's story going from the first God of War into this God of War, and just his kind of personal development. And if we're talking about the production here, I also wrote down in the notes, this is actually Cory Barlog's return to Santa Monica after leaving the studio. So he kind of left God of War behind, but then he came back into Santa Monica and just wanted to make a new kind of God of War story. So, and then you get to just see the pressures behind him as he's like trying to make this in the whole documentary. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet there is a lot of pressure for him kind of coming back to that. And like, my life's different, and like, I don't want to make another exactly the same God of War, even though I guess you probably could and just make money, but he's like, all right, I want to make a different kind of game and what's next and all that.
Yeah, it was really cool just because now Cory is a father. And again, I'm pretty much spoiling the documentary here, but he said that like he's in a new stage of his life where when he made the first God of Wars, he wasn't really a family man. He knew his mom and dad, but they were kind of far away. Like he was like the college student, but he wasn't college age, but he was like that. You know, you have your family and you know who they are, but you know, you're kind of your own man. But now Cory is married with a kid and he's got his priorities kind of changed. And that's really kind of the mirroring he puts into this God of War versus the other God of Wars. So it's actually pretty beautiful once you start really watching this documentary. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's cool seeing how that kind of changed how he approaches the character. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, I guess that's a little background on the game. So I guess what we'll do now is we're going to just kind of do a recap of kind of the main points in God of War. So again, like our podcast are always, they're full of spoilers. So if you don't want God of War spoiled, stop listening, go play and come back. But
Please play.
yeah, please play it. It's fun. But yeah, so we'll kind of spoil the story and discuss kind of what we think about it as we go. So the game begins with Kratos. His wife has recently died, so it's Kratos and then his son Atreus, and they're kind of distant. Like, they still all live together as a family, but it's clear that Atreus and Kratos haven't spent a lot of dad-son time together. And after his wife dies, so she gets ready to kind of commission them on a journey to take her ashes to the highest mountain in their area. So that's kind of where the game starts. So the introduction of the game, you get kind of a tutorial of how to play the game and that sort of stuff. So it starts off with Kratos teaching Atreus how to hunt, and as you're hunting, you end up running into various bad guys that you'll find along the way.
Yeah, this is I don't know about you, and this might be an unpopular opinion. I wasn't the biggest fan of this tutorial. Like, it was very clunky, like very convenient, you know. Where you know, you're teaching your son how to hunt, you know, it's just like after your mother dies or after your wife dies, like, come on, we're gonna go hunt, and it's just like, okay. And then all of a sudden Draugr come up, and I guess it is setting up the story, but it's very kind of there, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think I feel similar to you. Yeah, so you meet various enemies. What this kind of sets the stage for is, as you go through the journey, there's various types of enemies you're going to meet everywhere, and this is kind of just the beginning of that. So after your hunt, you end up returning home. Once you get there, this stranger shows up and wants to fight you. Just like, he's not super big, but pretty big. He's not as big as Kratos, but he's a pretty big dude.
Yeah. He's like your gym goer.
Yeah, he goes to the gym.
Yeah.
Definitely lifts.
Yeah.
So you tell Atreus to go inside the house, go to the basement, and Atreus is even surprised. He's like, "What? You don't tell me to go down there? Like, you said to always stay out." And he's like, "No, this is serious. Go downstairs." And so you fight this stranger. This gives you kind of your first boss battle-ish feeling going on.
Yes. Yeah.
And it sets the stage for crazy fighting in God of War. Like, you're punching each other, throwing each other like across the yard, smashing through like a stone, like all this kind of stuff. Chaos.
That's a tutorial I really like. This stranger fight.
Yeah, this was cool. Yeah, major fight. Ultimately, you knock him out, right? And then you and Atreus leave. So then you begin to start your journey. So your wife had commissioned you to do this. Kratos recognizes our home's not safe because this really strong bad guy who appears to be a god or something powerful has found us. So let's just do your mom's journey and then we can kind of get out of here. It's kind of the attitude. So they head up towards the mountain, and on the way up the mountain, they end up meeting a witch who they kind of befriend. Kratos is suspicious of her, but Atreus is pretty quick to make friends and like see good or want to see good in people. So we meet a witch. A little further along, we end up meeting two dwarves named Sindri and Brock. They're both blacksmiths, and they upgrade your weapons along the way. We meet them first here, but then as the game goes on, they're kind of our store, so to speak.
I'm glad that the game, as it continues, I won't spoil why we can see them, but I'm glad the game kind of explains how they can just appear out of nowhere and just at the exact moment that we arrive.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, it's like, wait, what? Why are you here? But then it does explain later on, like, how they can do this. I'm like, okay, thank you, game. Like,
yeah, it was good it wasn't left hanging.
Yeah. It's not just like because video game.
Right. And yeah, so Brock and Sindri, they're dwarves, and they're brothers, and they've had a falling out. They each make weapons and are both really skilled at it, but they had a falling out. Brock is kind of your gruff, foul, crazy brother, and then Sindri's like the hypochondriac brother, so everything makes him barf and thinks everything's gross. So they're a funny duo, and they have a competition with each other from afar. So when you like meet them, they're like, "Oh, you let my terrible brother upgrade your axe? Well, I'm gonna have to fix it." And then they upgrade your weapon more and that kind of
Yeah,
deal.
because they together made the axe, right?
Yeah, I think that together they made it before the game, right? And then
Yeah. It was because it was the mother's axe originally.
right.
Yeah, and so they're like, wait, that's my axe. No, I was the one that skilled at it, and so that's like where the fights came in. It's like, oh, he doesn't even know this axe, and it's just like really funny to watch. It's like, yeah, go ahead, upgrade it for free. I don't care, do it.
Right, yeah, and that's like Kratos' attitude is kind of like,
yeah,
I think you guys are kind of dumb, but you're helping me, so whatever.
Yeah, for free, yeah.
For free, right? And then Atreus like is pretty friendly to them and welcoming, just like with the witch.
Mm-hmm.
As his kind of thing goes. So from here, the witch gives us kind of direction on how to be able to continue our journey. So we end up taking a boat out to the lake, and we summon the world serpent. And when we do this, this lowers the water in the lake. And when the water's lowered, we're able to see like a bridge and some different buildings and stuff like that. So it was just beneath the surface, but the serpent being underwater, like, had the water level risen so you couldn't see those things.
Science class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I love this world serpent, man. Like as soon as it came up and it's just talking to us, I'm like, are we best friends now? Like, what's gonna happen now?
Yeah, that was really cool. That I didn't expect all that to go, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
From here, the witch then takes us to the temple, and she shows us how to travel to other realms inside the temple. So inside the temple, there's this big like circle fountain looking thing almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Where it's got
this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. And you can like twist it, and there's 7 towers, right?
I'm thinking of another realm. Yeah, so you're talking about in a circle, and I found this really fascinating. You're talking about like within the realms, and you can turn it, and then you can go into like Yeah, I found that really cool because the game is trying to not have any kind of loading screens, and it's trying to be as fluid as possible. And this kind of serves as a loading screen without it being a loading screen. So it kind of kept the game flowing, but also allowed your PS4 to load in the data, but it still had the story keep going. It was really cool, actually.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got this the key, I guess, so to speak, and you can travel to I think 7 different Norse realms in it, but some of them are blocked from you for various reasons, as the story will go. But the witch tells us, she takes us there, and then she takes us to a realm to kind of continue our errands to be able to reach the mountain.
Yeah. Oh no, I was gonna say, like, did we approach the black smoke yet?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when we encounter the black smoke. I can't remember if it's before the circle, or is it? No, wait. It was before, because you need the light from the one realm that we went to. Man, I'm trying to remember the realm where we get the light.
Is that like Alfheim or whatever?
Alfheim. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I was like, I feel bad that I like all these Norse realms. Like, I would recognize them if I see them, but I will not.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's just like there's so many of them, and I don't want to say they're funny names, but they're not English names either. So.
Right. Yeah, they're not familiar. I'm not like, oh, this one. Like, I'd recognize it if I see it as the word, right. Or if I'm playing in that world, I would know it. But yeah, just thinking offhand, I'm like, oh, it was the one with this. But anyway, the witch teaches us how to use the key. We travel to a realm with her, and she comes out on the bridge with us outside of it, but then is like vanished back into the realm that we were Midgard where we started, right?
Yeah.
So she's vanished back, so we've got to do the journey on our own. Then the kind of next section of the game is you get to kind of travel through the realms a bit and doing different side quests or errands you need to do to continue the journey. So we wrote down a couple highlights of that. We end up traveling and we meet Mimir, who's attached to a tree. Mimir he's like a demigod, right? He's not a full god, I don't think, but...
Well,
or is he a full god?
Well, in Norse mythology, he serves as kind of the advisor to Odin. So I think in Norse, he's a full god, but I don't know about the lore in this game. I feel like in this game, he is a full god. Like every person you encounter is a god, like a full god.
Okay.
I don't think they really touch on demigods at all, but yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, the mythology in the game versus real is like a little confusing at times.
Yeah, they did tweak it a bit,
which is fine. And confusing in a do I really know way, not in a it interfered with gameplay at all.
Right? Yeah, no.
It didn't change anything. So we meet Mimir though. Former advisor to Odin, but Odin is mad at him, so he's like fused him to a tree and took away one of his eyes.
Love to do that. Somebody who annoyed you, just like attach them to a tree. Just like hold them to a tree and just take their eyes.
Right, you will stay here forever.
Like, anybody lashes out on me on Twitter, it's like, well, I'm going to mold you into this tree, and goodbye.
Goodbye. From there. No. So we meet Mimir though, and he tells us some information, but is like, "Hey, I'll help you on your journey, but you need to cut my head off since I'm stuck to this." And so we're like, "Okay, sure." And he's like, "Take me to the witch you know, she'll revive me." And we're like, "All right, cool, that works." So we chop off his head, and from here on, Mimir is a head that's attached to us, like tied to our belt kind of thing.
Yeah, which I also think is also part of Norse mythology that Odin cuts off his head and just carries him around as an advisor.
Oh, cool.
So it kind of touches on that too. And I hope Mimir in Norse mythology, good job, Adam, is just as charming and witty as this Mimir.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I love this Mimir. He's great.
He never got on my nerves. He was so funny the whole time.
Probably one of the better like NPCs in general.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So we take him to the witch, and the witch is able to save him, or revive him, I guess, not save, but revive him. And in this, we end up finding out that the witch is Freya, who is a former wife of Odin.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal.
Yeah, because
go
for it.
I was gonna say the witch isn't super happy that Mimir revealed that.
Yeah, and Kratos is not a fan of gods at all, like any way or form.
That's made clear. He's instantly wary. His attitude towards her changes a lot. Like he was warming up to her as the game had gone on at this point. Has been like, okay, you're a helpful witch, sort of deal. But then once he finds out she's Freya, like he's like keeping Atreus back and like that kind of thing. Like, no, this isn't good.
Not a fan, Kratos.
Yeah, not a fan. So we end up leaving with Mimir. We tie him to our belt or whatever, and he's our advisor from there on. Now we're traveling further, and we end up fighting Modi and Magni. And these are two of Thor's sons, I believe.
Yeah, there are Thor's sons. And did you know? I actually just learned this today. Those two brothers actually voiced by Troy Baker and Nolan North.
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know either. I would have never guessed. But yeah, I was just watching, like little things that you didn't know, and they're voiced by Troy Baker and Nolan North. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I guess if you're like a good voice actor and someone's like, hey, do you want to be in this giant game for us for like, an hour?
Yeah.
Or whatever. You're like, yeah, sure, I want to be part of God of War. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
totally.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that in the
Yeah.
moment. I want to like rewatch the scenes now.
And see if you can pick up on their voices, like see if you can hear Nathan Drake at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Joel.
Yeah, and Joel, yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. That's cool.
Mhm.
So we fight them. During the fight, we end up killing Magni, but Atreus ends up getting sick during the end of the fight because he accidentally uses Spartan Rage. He like kind of has that like jolt go through him, and it kind of looks like a seizure.
Yeah.
And he goes down, and so Kratos lets the other one get away, and he grabs Atreus and is like, all right, I gotta get back to that witch and see if she can save him. And so you go back to Freya, and Freya says that she could heal Atreus, but she needs the heart of the bridge keeper in Helheim, because his heart is like used to make sure that the dead people actually go to Helheim, like that live people don't sneak in, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's where Kratos says, "Witch, please, I can't do that."
Right. He really does. He's like, what? And
Yeah.
Mimir is also like, are you insane?
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, you just have to go to Helheim, kill this troll, take his heart, and come back safe and sound. Bye bye.
Right.
Yeah.
So we undergo this insane journey to Helheim.
Yeah, and before we do that, like you find out that like you can't use your axe in Helheim, and you have to go back, and that's where I freaked out because I remember the original God of Wars where you have the Blades of Chaos, and you go back to your home and you get the blades.
Yeah, that was sweet. You go back, and you see the. I think they were. It almost seemed like Ghost, but Ghost of the Great Gods, right? Because they were like.
Yes. Yeah, it was his,
like coming at you a little bit.
His mother and his past selves. It's kind of like touching back on like who he was in the original God of War games. And yeah, you're just trying to like, oh, what's his mother's name? Oh, I can't remember the Great Goddess's name. I am not doing well on names today. But that's okay. I'm not well on names in real life either. So I'm in the safe zone. Yeah.
That's funny. No, yeah, because his like thing basically in the previous God of War games is that he just like kills gods for his mom or whoever would kind of lead him to want to kill gods, and so he just would do that.
Yeah.
And so the kind of taunts are like, you've never changed. You left, but you're still you. You're a bad.
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
Which like, as we're older, like you said, you're 30, right?
Yeah, 31.
Yeah, 31. And like I'm also there. No, I'm 28. But like, yeah, even at our age, like how many times do we like go through our life where it's just like, nope, like you'll never escape from yourself. Like this is always the way you'll be. And you just have to like keep going forward in life. And it's kind of like this really cool way where Corey like tries to talk about who he is and just like, you'll always be this way. You'll always try. And it's just like this great imagery of like just growing older, you know?
Yeah. And that just, like, because Kratos' goal, it seems, was if I remove myself proximity-wise, I'll move to Norway instead of being in Greece. That'll make my problems go away. Which, but then being there, it's like those thoughts are just as much there, and it's like you're still the same guy you always were. You're still a garbage killer kind of thing, or whatever.
Kratos, the garbage killer.
The garbage killer. Yeah, so that was really cool, and getting the Blades of Chaos is really cool. I enjoyed using the axe before this, like throwing the axe and recoiling it through bad guys, super fun.
Yeah.
But Blades of Chaos brought a whole new level of fun to fighting.
Yeah, I freaked out because like Liz was sitting there at the time, like she didn't watch the whole game, but my wife Liz, she was watching me at the time, and I was like, the Blades of Chaos. I was freaking out. I was like killing all the enemies, like, hurrah! And I was like just freaking out. And she's just looking at me like, you're such an idiot. I'm like, the Blades of Chaos.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was such a cool moment.
Yeah, that's great. So after this, we take the Blades of Chaos. We go to Helheim. We kill our way through Helheim. which is pretty fun. This, I think, in some ways, this one maybe was one of my favorite worlds to look at, just because it's like, I don't know, if I had to picture what Helheim would look like, I feel like they did land it. Like everything's like, kind of looks like White Walkers from Game of Thrones. Like it's all like light blue, white-ish color. Like
it was.
I thought that was pretty cool.
It was blank but beautiful at the same time. It was like it toned down on saturation, but it was just still really pretty to look at. Like you said, it's kind of complicated to think about, but it was such a gorgeous world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we succeed in killing our way through it. We kill the giant. We take his heart. We make our way back to Freya and give it to her, and she's able to use it to revive Atreus and make him okay.
Yeah.
And so then we're talking with Freya, and she tells us that she didn't want to help us, but her son went missing years ago.
Yeah.
And she's always been a part of him, and she saw like our care for Atreus when we were like banging on her door, that, you know, I've got to do the right thing here and I'll help you out.
Yeah.
So we have this conversation to the side, and we're like, okay, Atreus, let's go. We'll continue on our journey. But Atreus is pretty distant from us. He overheard some of our conversation with Freya, and so he thinks that we hate him, that, you know, we're upset to have him as a son and all that stuff, and so that, you know, he thinks we don't like him, and we end up coming clean with him, and we tell him that no, it's not that I don't like you, it's that I hate gods. And in fact, you're part god because I'm a god myself.
So I only hate you.
Yeah, I only half hate you. You're right. I'm apprehend. Right, you're part god, so I kind of don't like you. I guess you're right. But, no, but you get this reveal, and you can see this conflict between Kratos and even him having to spell it out, because something that's very true of Kratos all the way through the game, and probably in all the other ones, is he doesn't say much. He keeps his like own counsel. He doesn't like share how he feels or what he thinks or anything. It's just, this is what it is. So in this moment, he's expressing like, I don't like gods. Also, you're part god, and I was hoping I could protect you from that, because all gods become evil, kind of thing. And I'm a god, and so, you know, I hate myself in some senses because I hate all gods and because I think gods are evil, and I hate that you could be that, and so I kind of resent that you could also have that. Like,
yeah. And again, it goes back to Corey's mirroring as a father. It's just like, I hate who I was, and I don't want to raise my child to be like me. And it's just, again, it goes back to Corey's stance on everything.
No, yeah, I've got to watch that. I feel like now having finished the game, I would really appreciate probably just seeing the creator experience or whatever that goes with it.
And like I said, like if you go into it knowing that it's Corey's story, I just said that out loud. Corey's story. If you go into it knowing that, then you'll enjoy it way more. But we went into it thinking that's the making of God of War, and we were just a little disappointed. But
no, that's fair if you're like expecting like a behind the music of God of War instead of like
exactly
a documentary on Cory Barlog.
It pretty much
No, that cool. No, that's what's up. So we let Atreus know this, and he himself is actually pretty excited finding out he's a god. He's like, so could I like turn into a panther? Like he's like, all right, what are these god abilities? You know, like I'm pretty excited about this new possibility. It's really fun having Mimir here for this, because he's able to give a lot of advice about gods. You know, because Kratos, again, he's like, no, you can't be an animal. Like that's kind of what he gives you. But
I just love the answers it.
Yeah, so Mimir's really good because you get a lot of information about gods, and it allows Atreus's like childlike mind to be able to run with, oh my gosh, I'm a god, what does this mean, and all that. So that's pretty cool. I enjoyed that. We continue through our journey doing stuff. But then a little while later, Atreus starts to become arrogant upon this news of being a god.
Yeah.
He starts to be like, why would we care about that? We're gods. That's kind of the attitude he has. There's a point where he's talking to Sindri, and he says, Sindri's like whining about his brother. As you go back and forth between brothers as the missions go, one of them will be like, "Oh, did you see my dumb brother? How'd he ruin your dumb axe? I don't like my brother." That kind of stuff. And, it's one of those things where Kratos is like, it's annoying, but whatever.
Yeah.
But Atreus decides to be a jerk here, and then he says, "We're gods, and we don't care about your little people problems." It's like, and Sindri's like really hurt by this, and hearing it, I was like, "Oh, Atreus, that's so mean."
Yeah. And like, this is the point in time where you're just like, you just want to throw the boy out the window at this point. Like, but it just nails it. Like, it really does nail how kids are, especially ones who are just trying to become a man too soon, like trying to become an adult too soon. Like, I work with teenagers in my job, and it's just like, that's exactly how they are, man. It's just very arrogant, thinking that they got the world by the tail and trying to tell people off, and it's just like, bro, or not bro, you just say boy. Like,
boy,
stop being a jerk.
No, yeah, it's true. It's like, at first with this information, it's really cool for Atreus, but then it like corrupts him very easily. Because he's, like, I don't know, being, when I was young or observing young people, we always think we know everything. And then as you get older, you're like, I don't know anything. Like, it shifts, but like, and it seems like this is what Atreus has had go on, is he's like, oh wait, I'm a god, I'm better than everyone. Like, it is this attitude he adopts, which is unfortunate. And I was really hating Atreus here. I was like, freaking kid, like, you gotta stop.
Yeah, right. I'm about to sling you, dude. Like,
right.
I'm Kratos.
Right. Right. All right. I'll kill one more god.
It's just like, all right, just one more.
Yeah. So Kratos, though, luckily, does a good dad thing here, I would say, and he confronts Atreus for this, and he says, "You can't act like this. That was mean to act that way to the dwarves. Like, you shouldn't act that way towards people." And then Atreus is still kind of being mouthy. And so Kratos appeals to his wife, Atreus' mother, and being like, your mother wouldn't like go for anything like this. You would never act like that for her. And then Atreus is like, well, she wasn't a god, so she wouldn't even know. And that's one of those moments where like Kratos wants to hit him. Like, I want to hit you. You can't talk that way about your mom.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was a real botch by Atreus for sure, is that he's let it really go to his head that he's a god. But it was nice seeing Kratos do the right thing. There's a lot of times where he's like a kind of your cold, distant dad through it, and is pretty unlikable for quite a while, because he's just like doesn't say anything and just kills and is functional, and which made him sort of hard to play as a protagonist at the beginning, even for me at times, is like, you don't see the good in it. But then like something like this, it was like, okay, Kratos is like, there is good under there, even though you're pretty gruff or difficult on the surface.
It handles character development very well in this game. Yeah, totally.
From here, Kratos and Mimir talk a little bit about Atreus as well, and they are concerned over this attitude. Mimir's like, you've got to like fix this boy. Like, he's going to be a real problem if you don't rein him in.
Yeah.
Then later on, we come across an injured Modi, who had fought previously, and he's really beat up. Apparently, Thor, upon finding out that his brother got killed, just decided to beat the crap out of him and like leave him behind. So is bad. So we come upon him and we're like, okay, tell us what we want to know, and like we'll move on basically. And Atreus is like, no, you insulted my mom, we should kill him. And Kratos tries to say, no, don't even worry about it, but Atreus just kills him anyway.
Yeah. So, it's just like, my goodness, boy. Like, why'd you do that?
Yeah, he's he's really fallen. You're like, I don't know if Atreus can get redeemed. Like that's how it's feeling at this
Yeah.
point.
Oh my
Is
God.
like, is he going to become worse than Kratos or something like that? Like it's pretty concerning. Then later on, we continue in our journey and we get in a fight with Balder. So we find out before we meet Mimir
Hmm.
that the stranger is Balder,
Yeah.
a guy named Balder who.
Older than.
Uh, mhm.
Yeah.
So we find out it's him, and so then we get in a fight with Balder, round two, and it's a pretty like again one of the lengthy boss fight kind of things really going on.
Yeah.
Uh, and when we're fighting, we end up fighting on the bridge, and it gets switched to Helheim. So our fight like shoots us into another world kind of thing. So
Yeah.
back to Helheim, which was cool. And we're like sneaking around Helheim and just trying to escape. It's pretty creepy, because there's people's like spirits and ghosts sort of deal. So while we're roaming around, we find out that Baldur's mom is Freya.
Hmm.
Um, we see him kind of like yelling at her spirit because it seems like if you're in Helheim, you yourself could be haunted by spirits of people who are not there.
Which is weird.
Because,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Because, like, we saw Kratos killing his dad Zeus, maybe.
Yeah, it was definitely Zeus he was killing. I believe that was the end of God of War 1, the first one, or God of War 2. I think
Okay.
what I was confused about, it was just kind of like Helheim is supposed to be about, Norse deaths. So how does Greek come in? But maybe I'm just being stupid and I missed something, but I was just like, but again, it's just like what we said. Like there are some tweaks to North blah, blah, blah. Come on, Adam, get in the game here. Norse mythology. So there's some tweaks like creative dynamics. So Corey Barlog can do whatever he wants with this. So sure, like Zeus
Right.
could be in
No.
time.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I just kind of figured that whoever is in Helheim, it would take whatever they have. So if I was there and then I had whatever moments that those spirits would be haunting me,
Yeah.
uh, but that doesn't really fit with the Norse part, though. That's interesting. But I guess that Kratos seeing that was good because it seemed like Atreus could see it too, and they just like don't ask, don't tell about it.
Right. Yeah.
It
Exactly.
was
Like
kind of that. Uh,
yeah.
was kind of the attitude they had. So we do manage to make it out of Helheim, and we end up going back to the World Serpent
Hmm.
because the dwarves told us that that's where Mimir's other eye is, because that's where Odin told him to put it. And so if we get Mimir's other eye, then we'd be able to go to uh, Jorenheim,
Oh yeah.
which is where the top mountain is that we'll be able to spread uh, his wife's ashes from.
Yeah.
So we go inside
The
the
world's
World Serpent.
yeah.
we go inside, which is pretty crazy, like rowing a boat into there.
Yeah. I was reminded of I don't know if you played Gears of War 2.
I have not.
Oh wait, that's right. You didn't have a 360. Yeah. Gears of War 2. You enter a giant worm, pretty much the size of the world serpent. I was like, oh boy, Gears of War 2. God of
Oh,
War.
that's
Gears of
cool.
War. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was cool going inside there and seeing all the things the World Serpent has eaten and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, so we make our way through and we're like trying to row out, but the serpent like starts shaking, kind of thing, while
Mhm.
we're inside. And we're like, is it trying to eat us? Like, what's going on? But it turns out Balder's back. Um, so Balder round three is going.
Yeah.
So Balder basically like punches us out of the world serpent, like makes him barf us out.
Which how powerful do you gotta be? Like, holy cow. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
yeah, he is a god, so but still the size of the world serpent, I mean, dang.
right. I wouldn't even try to punch the world serpent if I was a god. I'd be like, he's too big.
I wouldn't even go near it.
Right. I'd be
Yeah.
like, you stay over there and I'll stay over here.
Yeah. Right.
uh, so we get in this fight with Balder, and Balder wants to kill Freya. So he feels like his mom abandoned him. Because of that, she should die for it. Like, this is her fault, that his life has been the way he is.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't really try to defend it. She's a lot more kind of like, if you think that'll make you happy, son, fine.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Because she feels a lot of guilt, it seems, for not being in his life. But she was like banished to a realm that Balder wasn't in by Odin, so it's not really her fault.
Right.
But she still is, I don't know, personalized it like it is her fault. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's kind of the dynamic there. Kratos though isn't going to let that happen. He's like, no, you're not doing that. I'm not letting you make that choice. So we have this giant fight with Balder, and along the way, Freya is trying to stop the fight from happening between us. So she's like wrapping us in vines.
Mm-hmm.
And wrapping Balder in vines. So it's like, we might get 2 punches in and then we're like stuck.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And of I think all the fights, this was the biggest one. So we've had, the big boss fights before this, and like you get like sweet cinematics and like cool
Yeah.
punches and like stuff like that. This one you get it even more.
Yeah, way more. Like this is really stupendous. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like on par with like a big action movie or the big Marvel movie or something like that. Like it was really cool fight scenes. Like,
Which it makes sense. I don't know if you played the original, or not the original, but the reboot of Tomb Raider 2013.
I haven't, but I bought it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you'll have to do that because Cory Barlog was actually the I have it here on the notes. What was his position? The cinematics director for Tomb Raider 2013.
Oh, cool.
So the same kind of cinematics that you see, like he kind of experienced that with Crystal Dynamics. So then he just brought it over like 10 times more in this game.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. I've heard that Tomb Raider game is awesome though, so I'm pretty excited to play that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So giant fight ensues. We're like going at it back and forth, and like we're really beating the crap out of each other. Like people's faces are getting bloodied. Like, and Balder too is invincible, or before the fight, he's invincible because Freya had like cast some sort of spell on him when he was a baby, essentially that he could like not really be hurt.
Yeah, be like impervious to everything. Yeah.
Right. But in the fight, he ends up getting pierced by like this arrow that is the one thing he's impervious to. It's like his kryptonite.
Yeah. Which
Um,
makes sense to Norse mythology too. Yeah.
yeah. And so because of that, he's still really, really powerful, but like not invincible. And so our fight is reasonably fair within that. Like we're both really strong, but we're actually both like feeling the punches kind of thing. Ultimately, the fight is over, and then Balder goes up to Freya and starts choking her, and she's like, "Son, I don't want you to kill me, but if you do, and this will like make you whole, I'll let you do it," sort of thing. And Kratos says, "Nah." Snaps Balder's neck.
Nah.
And says, "This ends here. Like, we're done with this legacy of kids killing their parents as gods. Like, we're not doing this anymore. I'm ending it. Like, I gave you the opportunity to do the right thing, and you didn't, essentially." Yeah. Freya, understandably, is super pissed, though, and says that she's going to bring every curse imaginable upon Kratos. And Atreus doesn't understand this. He's like, "What? Like, you saved her?" But Ymir and Kratos are like, it's because that's her kid. Like, of course she'd feel that way. I'd feel the same way if it was the opposite kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's our big fight finally. So now we get to go to Jotunheim. So we go, we take the realm travel there, and we enter this room with a bunch of statues, and there's this mural on the wall of the giants, and as we're looking at the mural, it's uncovering different big events that had happened through the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like us fighting Boulder. There's us fighting a dragon that happens earlier in the game. There's the world serpent, like all these things. And Atreus is like, "What is this?" And Kratos says, "This is your story."
Yeah.
And that evidently I wasn't the only one who kept secrets, but that your mother did, because you're part giant. This is you at the end of the end of the mural. This is your story. Because Atreus was kind of like, "Oh, it's our story." He's like, "No, this is you, man. Like, this was your journey, and your mom kind of set you up to be able to be ready to go on this journey when she was gone."
Which is crazy. Yeah, like it's almost like a prophecy. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. Like I did not expect that at all. So then, upon learning this, they're just like, "Wow, this is wild." Then Kratos and Atreus do make it to the top mountain peak, and they spread her ashes. It's very nice. They accomplish their goal, their mission. And then Kratos reveals that Atreus' mom tried to name him Loki. And apparently that's why it says Loki on the walls, is she must have called him Loki to the other giants. But that wasn't his name. He was Atreus instead. And then, boom, game over. Which definitely leaves us with questions and sequel potential.
Did you go back to your house and sleep?
I didn't. I heard that something happens, though.
Oh, yeah. Like, I DM'd you. I'm like saying like, "Oh, I got to the credits," because you're walking back to it. And then like, "Oh, I finished the game." And then like, I went back to the house and I'm like, I DM'd you back like, "Never mind, got to the real credits." So, but yeah.
Oh, I missed the real credits then. What happens?
Yeah, so you go back to your house, right? And then you go to sleep. And then it says years later. And then you wake up and there's all this lightning and thunder coming down to the house. And then Atreus is like, "What is this?" And Kratos is just like, "I don't know, boy. Give me my axe and my chaos blades." And you go out and you know who it is because it's the lightning and whatnot. And you go outside and then Kratos says, "Who are you?" And you just see this giant, like really big dude in the shadows with a cape. And he says, "Who are you?" And that's where the cape reveals Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer. So like, oh, it's Thor. And that's where the end come in. So I guess the sequel potential is that you get to fight. I was about to say Thanos. That would be a twist. It's like, oh, it wasn't Thor. It's actually Thanos.
God of War is part of the MCU.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That'd be wild. Okay, so Thor. Okay, I totally missed that. That's crazy.
Yeah, but it was really cool.
How big is Atreus looking?
Oh no, he was the same age, and it said years later, but like they were all the same age. I was like, that's weird, but okay. Yeah, I guess Loki always stays young. At least that's what I remember. I was more focusing on seeing who Thor is, but I didn't really see any changes to Atreus. But yeah, you said years later, but I'm assuming that means years later, meaning like it's going to take years to develop God of War 2. So
no, that's probably true.
Yeah,
that's surprising though. I wonder, because Kratos definitely looks older than in the previous God of War games, right?
Oh yeah, old man.
I was gonna say, I thought I've seen pictures of him looking younger.
Yeah, or at least gods maybe just aged more slow, I guess.
Right. That's what I was wondering, because I guess that, like, again, this is just guessing. I haven't played any God of War game besides this one, but it seems like the next one you'd probably have Kratos get killed off and Atreus becomes the protagonist somewhere in it. But like, I can't imagine fighting as like a young boy with a bow and arrow. Like, you'd think he'd have to get a little bit more physically.
Yeah.
Like, being able to melee in some manner.
Dang.
Maybe not though. Maybe we'd all transition to being a small bow and arrow kid, but
yeah,
it seems like he'd have to be a little bigger.
Yeah, no, he was about the same size as far as I can remember. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I just wanted to see what Thor looked like. I was more focusing on that, so maybe I did miss it.
No, that'd be what I was focusing on. I just happened to think of it right now.
Yeah, true.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess that's a recap of God of War. So now we just had kind of general thoughts we wanted to share about the game,
Hmm.
things that stood out to us, whatever. So one thing for me was I thought the cutscenes in this game were amazing. Like maybe some of the best cutscenes in any game.
Hmm.
I was trying to think of ones that could rival it, and it was like like Uncharted 4 had some that were really great, or Last of Us, but I don't know. They might have even been better in this. Like it just looked so good.
Yeah, I can't not agree with that. Like that, it was pretty stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. Another thing for me is I enjoyed the second half of the game a lot more than the first half. I think, like you mentioned in the beginning with like the tutorial part, I think the beginning part of just kind of figuring out how the game works and stuff like that. I liked it and I was having fun, but once you got to the part where like Atreus finds out he's a god in Ford, I was really sucked in at that point. Like I think before just being Kratos being unlikable,
Yeah.
which is what it's supposed to be, but I think it made it a little harder for me to buy in the beginning section. But then started seeing the growth, it really bought me in, and like I really enjoyed those things.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that too. It's just it kind of grew on you. All the characters kind of grew on you as you like continued forward. Like I said before, just the character development was just so professionally done that you don't see it in many video games. This type of character development, anyway.
Hmm.
Uh, you mostly see it in PlayStation games, honestly.
Yeah, it does seem they've got a they just I don't know put more into it or have stronger people who do it or I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
they really do it well.
Uh,
Um, yeah, another thing is earlier this year I read a Norse mythology by Neil Gaiman,
mhm.
uh, and I thought that was cool. It helped inform some of this world. It did talk a lot more about like Thor and Loki. So unfortunately, neither of them were that involved in this game. But
Yeah, I'm sure they will in the next game.
yeah,
That would be pretty cool.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
But it did sort of give some of the some familiarity. Like I felt like I was like, okay, I kind of know a little bit more about this than I would have, and I thought the book was cool and wasn't too long. So if you want more Norse mythology, that's a good easy way to get it for people if they want it.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't read it. I've always seen it like whenever I go to Target, I see the book. I'm like, oh man, because I'm always interested in Norse myth. Do it, Adam. Norse mythology. My dog is actually named after a Viking. My
Oh,
dog,
cool.
yeah, my dog's name is Floki, named after the Viking Floki Hrafna Vilgedarson. He was the Viking that discovered Iceland. So,
Oh,
uh,
cool.
yeah, he's a good boy. He's a Chihuahua mixed with a Corgi, so not very Viking. But he's named after one. So
Half Viking.
yeah, yeah.
That's
He's only,
awesome.
he's only half Viking god.
I only had one more thought on the game. Is I recommend Good Game, Great Games episode on God of War. I listened to that a little while ago, and I thought that was pretty cool. They shared good thoughts on God of War, and Andrew and Kevin both seem pretty into mythology, so they had a lot of cool quips to share about mythology and like related to that. So if you want more mythology, highly recommend that recap by those guys. Yeah. Do you have anything else on the game at large, or do you want to just jump into some feedback from people?
I mean, just briefly. I mean, I've been sharing my thoughts as we were recording, but it was just the mirrored image of Corey's life and just raising a child as a father, and you're just trying to figure out who you are and making sure that your child doesn't know who you once were, and then at the same time you're also looking at Atreus's struggle of you're going through this loss of your mother, but then again you're also trying to prove your manhood. You're trying to prove that you're quote unquote man enough to get over it. So you have this aggression of a teenage boy, but also the tragic loss of a mother. And it was just so beautifully told. And the most beautiful part of it all was that there was no loading screens I didn't really encounter any notable glitches in this game, so you could really feel the beauty of this story because there was no loading screens or glitches that were in your way. You could just play and just let the story play out.
Yeah, no, that's true. I didn't notice anything slowing me down at all like that.
Yeah, which
When
is
you when you jumped when you fast traveled, did it load then? I think
when you go into
like those mist things.
yeah, those doors. And that's the other thing. Like, just like with the loading screen of going to different realms, it kind of served as a loading screen when it wasn't a loading screen.
Uh huh.
So it might have like paused for like 2 seconds. So it's not perfect, but talking about next gen consoles not having loading screens, I think we can look at God of War and kind of see what that means to have no loading screens, which is impressive because that's current gen right now. Uh,
Right.
yeah, but it served its little technological smoke and mirrors to make sure that there were loading screens that the PS4 can keep up with it. Now, were you playing this on a base PS4 or a PS4 Slim?
Just regular four.
Okay, like a base one. And I was about to say I'm playing it on a Slim. And you didn't encounter any glitches on your base?
No, I didn't. I didn't notice anything glitchy or anything like that.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I was like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah. It's a nice break. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that once we're all playing games on PS5 or whatever, like that'll be really cool.
Yeah, right.
Having that for like more games or most games or all or whatever, like that'd be awesome.
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
Cool. All right. A little bit of listener feedback then.
Yeah.
So from Dave, he says, "Not enough God slash wars." Seriously though, I loved it. I was It was a surprisingly small and emotional story with a minimal cast. It touched on major themes of family violence and destruction that is common in mythology. Additionally, seeing Kratos having some actual character development and confronting how shitty of a person and father he was really refreshing.
Yeah.
It was cool seeing him reflect instead of just being like, kill, do, this is all, like seeing him warm up and like show little parts was really nice.
It was an incredibly for a game about gods, it was incredibly human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's perfect. I agree.
Yeah. Should I take the next one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Andre on Twitter. By the way, what's up, Andre? How you doing? Andre follows all three of us, I think. But Andre on Twitter says, great game. Really enjoyed how they changed Kratos from the literal representation of anger to a character with actual depth. I agree with that. The gameplay is great. I'm thinking of replaying it this summer, which you definitely should. Yeah, I completely agree with that, where it's just a god of war, very angry, aggressive. Now he's got depth and you feel for him. I think you like what you said, Dan. You feel for him more in the second half of the game than you do in the first half, but you still feel the depth behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Livo on Twitter said, out of this game and The Last of Us are my favorite games of all time, depending on the day you ask me. But Game of the Year 2018 is by far the more complete package with the best fighting mechanics, graphics, set pieces in modern age, along with a story and character development, makes it one of the greatest games of all time, surely. Only minor criticism I have is its lack of boss battle variety. Everything else is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. I did notice partway through the game that the boss fights, it was like, okay, they roughly have the same kind of theme, like okay, Blades of Chaos, throw the axe, Blades of Chaos. Like I'd like
Yeah.
figure out my kind of like rhythm to it, and was like, okay, cool, I get it. So I could see that criticism, but as he
Mhm.
said, there's
Yeah.
a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, when I interviewed Nick DiPaolo, he said the same thing. Like he tried to play God of War, but they're just doing the same thing over and over again. And I feel for that, but like she said, like it's still like a really good game. It's so perfect. But if you can just get past the Blades of Chaos, axe, I totally agree with that.
I think that having played this game now and finished it, I think that I wouldn't probably like the previous God of War games because they seem like they would be more like the first half of this game, based
Yeah.
on playing it. So I'm thinking that those probably wouldn't be for me. But this does make me think that the next God of War would be something I'd be into. Like, based on the second half of this story, I'm like, well, even if there is some like grindy, fighty stuff
Hmm.
that I'm maybe a little less into,
Yeah,
it's gonna pay me off really well with the stuff I really like.
yeah. No, totally agree. Um, Anders on Twitter said, truly outstanding, well placed story with good characters and an extremely fun gameplay system. My game of the year 2018. And I totally agree with that. I remember it was up against Red Dead Redemption 2, which I also played and beat. Comparing the two, I enjoyed God of War much more. Now, unpopular opinion, Spider-Man was my 2018. Fight me on Twitter at Ace the Grocer. But yeah, I remember it was there, and then they said Game of the Year, God of War, and I was like, thank goodness. Like honestly, like it was much better than Red Dead Redemption 2, in my opinion.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
I haven't played Red Dead yet or Spider-Man, so I've got two important games to
Yeah.
catch up on.
Yeah, Red Dead is super long. It took me 60 hours just to beat the main story with very minimal side quests.
Oh wow.
It's a long game, dude. Yeah.
Jeez. No, yeah, that seems like a game that'll be like start in January, play till like July or
Yeah,
something like
actually.
that. Like
Yeah.
that legit might end up being how something like it goes for me. That's crazy. But that's strong though. Two 2018 Game of the Year votes for people in here. That's a quality sign for
Yeah.
sure. Joe on Twitter said, "It took me a while to get into. There's a lot of mythology-based 100-plus-hour open world games right now.
Hmm.
So sometimes I want something a little shorter. But after a while, I really enjoyed the game. I've not completed it yet, but I find Atreus really compelling. Protect him."
Yeah.
No, that is true. I guess even speaking to Red Dead, not mythology based, obviously, but like
Yeah.
the daunting of like giant games.
Oh my
That
goodness. Yeah.
that can be hard. I was glad that uh, this game. I did a few side quests, but I did mostly stay main story.
Yeah. Same. Hmm.
And I don't feel like I'm missing out, like not having done everything or whatever. But I did like that it did fit into like a I don't know 25 to 30 hours maybe.
It was about 25. Yeah. Around 25, 30 hours. Yeah. Every game that I pick up, I always check, or before I buy it, I always check howlongtobeat.com and I just type in how long is this? And if it's like 40 hours, I'm like, how about a different game? Um,
Mhm.
but no, she's right. That like there's so many longer games that it's very refreshing to get a more consumable product that still has a compelling story.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I keep a Google Doc of just all games I'm interested in and look them up on how long to beat. So I've got like a spreadsheet that's got all the like, okay, here's this game, here's how long it is. So then as I'm like trying to decide to buy games or what game I want to play next, I'm like, all right, what am I weighing them against and like that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Because it's like, I don't have enough time to play like a bunch of huge, really long games. Like I could play one, but then I'm probably just going to play a bunch of short games alongside it or something. Like,
No, yeah, totally agree. Um, all right, and then lastly, we got Average J on Twitter. Says great story. Love they finally went into North. Come on, Adam. Norse mythology. I'm the worst at tongue twisters, and that's not even tongue twister. Um, w- oh yeah. There's one last one. Sorry.
oh,
Yeah.
also Welly on Twitter, phenomenal game, great story. Uh, yeah, it is cool that they switched off of Greek mythology though and moved to Norse. That is a cool move.
Yeah, it's cool that it was a reboot, so they rebooted the whole series into that. And if you watch the documentary, they even said like, well, what are you trying to say, Corey? That Kratos just picked up a backpack and just skipped his way into Midgard, and Corey responded like, well, he doesn't have a backpack, but yeah, it's like, no context, it just goes in there. But
That's awesome.
yeah.
No, that's cool. I wonder, I mean, this would be like, I don't know, in 10 years or something probably, but I wonder if they ever decide to abandon Norse mythology, if they'll like jump to another mythology and like they'll just keep doing that every like 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like a new one or something because there's so much mythology that they probably could bounce around for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. No, that would be really, really cool. Like almost they kind of share in the same way with Greek, but like almost like Roman gods. That would be pretty cool. Or Egyptian gods, like kind of like Assassin's Creed Origins. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that'd be interesting. So I don't know what they'll bring for us, but I'm definitely interested.
Oh yeah, totally.
I'll be eagerly looking for, I guess, if this next one's called God of War 2 or whatever they call it. But
Yeah,
I'll be interested.
definitely, definitely. Same here.
Awesome. Well, that's God of War for us then. Awesome game. It was a lot of fun. Definitely check it out. Well, I guess hopefully you've already checked it out now that you've heard us spoil it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a cool game. If you've got other thoughts you want to share about God of War, definitely send them in to us. Let us know. That would be cool. So now we're gonna talk about games and groceries a bit, and just kind of hear more about what Adam and Liz are doing and all that. So I guess first, just super general. I know we cover probably some of a similar audience, but there's probably some listeners who haven't heard Games and Groceries yet. So,
Right.
what does Games and Groceries cover? What's your podcast about?
Yeah, so we start off by just giving a short little intro, but then we have something called Movie Minutes, which is the first 10 minutes of the podcast, and it serves two purposes. One, it's almost like a 10-minute warm up for us so that we can just get in the podcast groove. But it also serves the purpose of just giving you some recommendations, mostly from Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, so that if you have these services, just like, hey, we watched this movie, this is what we think about it without spoiling it, and do we recommend it? And if I don't recommend it, I do my best to recommend a movie on those services that is in the same genre. But that's Movie Minutes, and then we
Cool.
move into top three gaming news, which is a condensed version of what's going on in the gaming industry. And we just rank it 3, 2, 1, and we just discuss our thoughts on that. And then final segment is called Talkie Time. And we just pick up not a random topic, but what's on our mind about the topic in the gaming industry. We can talk about like female gamers, well, this is your next question, so I won't go into the topics just yet, but like, yeah, it's just like a topic about the gaming industry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Also, you guys had me on to talk about narrative games, so if you guys
Yeah.
haven't heard that, go listen to that one for sure, along with the other ones. But no, yeah, I like your the gaming news segment especially. I don't keep up with a lot of news, and
Mhm.
so this is a nice, easy way to get highlights. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like we said, it's very condensed because we know people don't have time to do it, so just condense it down to 3, like the top 3 that we think.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Do you have any upcoming topics that you're particularly excited about, or maybe certain episodes you'd recommend to check out in the backlog if someone's gonna check them out?
Well, like you said, definitely check out where we had the greatest story ever told. We had Dan on to talk about narrative games and just, what we think about all of that. Our episode coming up, our next episode will be called Apolitical Gamers with Mr. Matty Plays on YouTube. And we're just going to be talking about, the perspective of an apolitical, meaning that we don't really have a side on politics. We just kind of look from the outside in. And, it's just our perspective of too many politics and games and whatnot. And we know it's a sensitive topic, but it's still a topic that needs to be said or like at least discussed. We never argue on the podcast. We just discuss these things. But the other episode that I really enjoyed was the message behind Sea of Solitude. And we just kind of do what Dan does here on The Greatest Story Ever Played. And we just kind of broke down the message behind Sea of Solitude. So there are spoilers, but if you've played it, definitely check out that episode too.
No, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because usually you guys do a topic, but then occasionally you've done a specific game where you'll
Yeah.
do kind of a bigger one, like the Life is Strange 2. You guys have been doing those
Yes.
as those come out, and
I forgot to say that. Yeah, we'll always do a Life is Strange episode like breakdown. Like we're always going to have like our thoughts on Life is Strange episode. Life is Strange 2 episode 4 is coming up. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. In like a month. It's coming up
Yeah,
fast.
it's crazy. Like
I know, it's awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's great. That's cool. That's good stuff. And so also recently, you guys have actually been kind of expanding the channel and adding new stuff, right? Or the podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah, now we're on YouTube, and we just decided to venture onto YouTube because I had experience on the platform as well. I did kind of skit comedy with my roommate, and I just, kind of missed the platform, and I kind of wanted to mess around with the algorithm. So we meandered our way onto YouTube, and now we're kind of doing daily uploads, and we're just kind of throwing everything and just seeing what sticks. And by everything, what we offer on the YouTube channel is, of course, the full podcast, which is filmed. You get to see our faces, and then we record podcast highlights, which we upload. So if you don't want to listen to the full podcast, there are podcast highlights. We have Let's Plays. So right now, myself, Adam, I'm playing Resident Evil 2 Remake on the channel, and Liz is playing Detroit Become Human, which you just talked about, which was a very good episode, might I add.
Thanks. No, yeah, that's awesome. Detroit Becoming Human seems like it'd be like perfect for a Let's Play.
Yeah, she absolutely loves it. And then the last thing, we just have a discussion video where we find an article online and we just kind of react to it. The last one, I'll be honest, the Google Stadia one wasn't received so well, so buyer beware, I guess. But yeah, we just want to give like what works on YouTube, and then whatever is really clicking, that's what we're going to double down on.
No, nice. That's cool. That's cool, spreading into different things beyond just the podcast. You've got your like podcast as your mainstay, but then trying out different things and seeing what you like and that sort of deal.
Oh, the podcast will always be essential. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah, it seems like that's your hub where everything else comes from, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I guess just another question I had just generally about you is, what are some of your favorite games?
Yeah, I can't talk about my favorite games until I talk about Jet Set Radio Future. That game got me, like, I think that was the game that really got me hooked into gaming, because I always gamed as a kid, with the NES, the SNES, the N64. But then my grandmother, when she got me the Xbox, it came with Jet Set Radio Future. And I could not stop playing that game. Unfortunately, I don't have that Xbox anymore. If you want to find out more, check out our Christmas episode where we talk about gaming Christmas stories, and that's why I don't have my Xbox anymore.
Okay.
But Jet Set Radio Future was definitely a favorite game of mine. More going to the future, again, can't talk about favorite games until I talk about Skyrim. My goodness. Like, Skyrim was the very first game where I actually lost track of time. There was one time I was just sitting in my college dorm, and I was just like, oh, I got an hour till class. I'll just play a little bit of Skyrim. And 5 hours later, I woke up and woke up out of Skyrim, and I was like, uh-oh, I missed 3 classes. Oops. But yeah, definitely Skyrim. And then awesome. Life is Strange, of course. But
that's great. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, Life is Strange definitely is a favorite game for us. Yeah. But yeah, like I can go on like way more favorite games, but like the ones kind of like my desert island games are definitely Jet Set Radio Future, Skyrim, Life is Strange. Oh man, Halo 2. Halo 2 really made me a lot of friends. I could go on, but like I don't want to like chop for time or anything like that. But Halo 2 is definitely up there too.
No, yeah, that's great. That's a cool variety of games too, like what they bring you for your desert island situation.
Yeah.
Because like, if I was desert island style like that, like I wouldn't necessarily want to take only one kind of game, like.
Yeah, because then you get bored of it. Yeah.
Right, you'd get bored of it. But, like with Skyrim being so big, you could just spend forever on that. But then if you're like, nah, I'm not feeling that, you can load up something different, and that would be good.
Yeah.
for the desert island scenario.
when you get the chance, you should look up on YouTube. His name is Scott the Woz, and he has a video called Desert Island Games, and he makes like a really compelling argument of how you should rethink your Desert Island games. I was like, wow, okay, this is really blowing my mind right here. But he has a good argument about it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's cool. That sounds awesome. I'll have to check that out.
definitely.
Cool. I guess kind of last, where can people find you and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you can find us on Twitter at Gaming Groceries, or you can follow the hosts. I'm at Ace the Grocer. My wife is at Journey First. You can follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word. Also, our website, gamesandgroceries.com. And then if you go on the website, gamesandgroceries.com, there's a tab that says where to listen, and then you can find all 14 platforms that we're on, including Player FM. I don't know what that is, but we're on it. And then finally, you can find us on YouTube. You can just search, honestly, you can just search Games and Groceries, and then the very first thing that pops up is Games and Groceries. So definitely subscribe to the channel there if you're interested in whatever I said, all that garbage that I put up on there. But yeah.
No, awesome. Cool. Yeah. Again, too, for people, I highly recommend you checking out Games and Groceries. I've really enjoyed listening to their episodes and the topics they hit up. I've found really interesting and good stuff to think about in gamings. Yeah, I guess that's our episode. So for us, you can follow us on Twitter at StoryEverPod. You can email us at TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed@gmail.com. And yeah, please rate and view us on iTunes. Let us know what you think about podcast or wherever you get your podcast. And yeah, we'll see you next time. And Adam, thanks again for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.